I am offering you a choice. Take your children and leave. Ned Stark says this to Cersei Lannister in Season 1, Episode 7, standing in the God's Wood of the Red Keep. He's discovered the truth that Jon Arryn died for. Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen are not Robert's children. They're the products of incest between Cersei and her twin brother Jaime. Ned holds all the power in this moment. He has the truth that could destroy House Lannister. He has the proof in historical records showing every Baratheon child has black hair. He has Robert's trust as Hand of the King. All he needs to do is tell Robert. Show him the evidence. Let the king's rage fall on the Lannisters. Instead, he warns Cersei, gives her time to escape, offers mercy to a woman who will use that mercy to destroy him. And Cersei, understanding the game in a way Ned never will, delivers the line that defines everything. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. This scene revealed Ned Stark's fatal mistake. Not just poor tactical timing, not just misplaced mercy, but a fundamental misunderstanding of the world he's operating in and the game he's playing. Ned thinks he can be honorable and still win. He thinks there's a middle ground between mercy and victory. He thinks warning his enemy is the right thing to do. And it gets him killed. Let's examine how this one decision destroyed Ned Stark, triggered a war that killed thousands, and proved that honor without pragmatism is just a beautiful way to die. The discovery, when Ned had all the power. To understand why this moment is so catastrophic, you need to know what Ned knows when he makes this choice. He spent weeks investigating Jon Arryn's death, following breadcrumbs, reading historical records, examining Robert's bastards. And he's found the pattern. Every child Robert Baratheon fathered has black hair. Every single one. It's a dominant Baratheon trait that goes back generations. But Joffrey has golden hair. So does Myrcella. So does Tommen. The conclusion is inescapable. They're not Robert's children. They're Jaime's. This is treason, incest, a crime punishable by death. Not just for Cersei and Jaime, their children would be revealed as bastards with no claim to anything. Ned also knows Robert is dying. The hunting accident that Cersei arranged has mortally wounded him. Within hours, Robert will be dead, and when Robert dies, the bastard Joffrey will become king. So this is Ned's moment, his window to act. His chance to expose the truth while Robert still lives to hear it. He holds complete power, the evidence, the authority, the dying king's ear, and he throws it all away. The warning, giving away everything. When Ned confronts Cersei in the Godswood, he tells her everything. He reveals that he knows the truth, that he's going to tell Robert, that she should take her children and flee before the king finds out. I am offering you a choice. Think about what he's doing. He's surrendering his only advantage, surprise. Cersei didn't know Ned had discovered the truth. She suspected Jon Arryn knew. That's why she had him killed. But she had no idea Ned had followed the same trail to the same conclusion. Now she knows, and she knows exactly when Ned plans to act, after he speaks to Robert. This is catastrophic tactical stupidity. Ned has given his enemy complete intelligence about his evidence, his timeline, and his plans. He's handed Cersei everything she needs to destroy him. Why? Because Ned can't bear the thought of children dying for their parents' sins. Because telling Robert means Robert will kill Cersei, Jaime, and possibly the children in his rage. Because Ned's honor demands he give them a chance to escape. It seems merciful. It seems just. It seems like what a good man would do. It's also the stupidest decision of his life. Cersei's response. No middle ground. Cersei doesn't flee. Of course she doesn't, because she understands what Ned doesn't. There is no middle ground. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. This is the fundamental rule of Westerosi politics that Ned completely fails to understand. Ned thinks there are options. He thinks Cersei can flee, and everyone walks away. He thinks he can expose the truth after giving her time to escape. He thinks mercy and victory can coexist. But Cersei knows better. If she flees, she loses everything. Her children lose any claim to power. Her family's position crumbles. Everything she's sacrificed for, everything she's done, becomes worthless. And she knows Ned won't let it go. Even if she flees, he'll still tell Robert. He'll still expose her children as bastards. He'll still support Stannis's claim. Running means losing from a position of weakness. Fighting means she might win. So she fights. She has to. Because in the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground where Ned gets to be merciful and Cersei accepts exile peacefully. That option doesn't exist. It never existed. And Ned's failure to understand this is what kills him. The fundamental misunderstanding, Ned's fatal mistake, goes deeper than poor tactics. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the world he's operating in. Ned was raised in the North, in Winterfell, where honor matters more than clever plots, where your word is sacred, where people follow codes even when it costs them. He thinks King's Landing works the same way. He thinks if he shows mercy, Cersei will recognize it and leave peacefully. He thinks honor demands giving her a choice. But the South doesn't operate on Northern principles. The Game of Thrones doesn't have the same rules as Ned's code of honor. Cersei doesn't see his warning as mercy. She sees it as weakness, as an opportunity, as confirmation that this honorable fool can be manipulated through his own principles. She sees a man so bound by his moral code that he'll sabotage himself to maintain it. A man who will warn his enemy because honor demands it. A man whose predictability makes him easy to destroy. This is Ned's core failure. He brings Northern values to a Southern game. He plays by rules his opponents don't recognize. He expects honor from people who see honor as a liability to exploit. What happens next? The price of mercy. Cersei moves immediately after Ned's warning. She ensures Robert's hunting wound becomes fatal, giving him extra strong wine through her servant, guaranteeing he's too drunk to defend himself properly when the boar attacks. With Robert dead, she seizes power. Joffrey becomes king. The Lannister guards take control of the Red Keep. She positions her forces for the confrontation she knows is coming. And when Ned tries to reveal the truth, when he stands in the throne room with Robert's will declaring him Lord Regent and protector of the realm, Cersei has already won. She's bought Littlefinger. She secured the gold cloaks. She's prepared for exactly this moment. All because Ned gave her warning. All because he told her what he knew and when he planned to act. The City Watch, the soldiers Ned thought he'd secured through Littlefinger, turn on him. They slaughter his men in the throne room. They arrest him while his guard's blood pools on the floor. And Ned, standing there in shock as his honor crumbles around him, finally understands. There is no middle ground. He tried to be merciful. He tried to protect children. He tried to do the honorable thing. And it got him arrested, got his men killed, put his daughters in danger, handed complete victory to his enemies. The children, why Ned made this choice. It's important to understand Ned's motivation. This isn't stupidity, it's compassion. Ned looks at Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen and sees children. Innocent children who didn't choose their parents. Who didn't ask to be born from incest. Who don't deserve to die for crimes they didn't commit. And he can't bear to be responsible for their deaths. This is actually beautiful. It shows Ned's humanity. His refusal to sacrifice innocence for political gain. But it's also his fatal blind spot, because his compassion for Cersei's children blinds him to the danger she poses to his own. He thinks, if I warn her, she'll take her children and flee. They'll be safe. No innocent blood on my hands. He doesn't think, if I warn her, she'll use that time to strike first. Then, my daughters will be hostages. My family will suffer for my mercy. Ned's compassion is beautiful, but it's selective. He's willing to risk Sansa and Arya to save Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. And that's the tragedy. His best quality, his refusal to harm children, becomes the weapon Cersei uses to destroy him. The contrast. How others would play this. Imagine if someone else discovered this truth instead of Ned. If Tywin Lannister found evidence that his enemy's children were bastards with no claim to the throne, he wouldn't warn them. He'd gather his evidence, prepare his forces, and strike when victory was assured. No warning, no mercy, just calculated destruction. If Littlefinger discovered this secret, he'd use it as leverage. He'd find a way to profit from both sides, selling information to the highest bidder or manipulating outcomes for maximum personal gain. If Varys uncovered the truth, he'd calculate what outcome best serves the realm and work toward that, regardless of honor or individual mercy. Even Robb Stark, Ned's own son, learned from his father's death. He learned that honor without strategy is suicide. When Robb plays the game, he's more pragmatic than his father ever was. But Ned warns his enemy because that's what honor demands. This is what makes him both admirable and doomed. He's too good for the world he lives in. His principles are beautiful, but incompatible with survival in King's Landing. The irony, honor destroying the honorable. There's cruel irony in how Ned Stark dies. He spends his entire life building a reputation as the most honorable man in Westeros, the one person everyone knows will keep his word and do the right thing. And that reputation is exactly what kills him. Because Cersei knows Ned is honorable. She knows he'll warn her before acting. She knows he won't strike without giving her a chance. She knows his principles make him predictable. His unwavering commitment to doing what he believes is right makes him easy to counter, easy to anticipate, easy to destroy. If Ned were less honorable, he might have gone straight to Robert, secured his position before revealing the truth, prepared for Cersei's countermove. But because he's so honorable, he does the predictable thing, the merciful thing, the thing that gives his enemy exactly what she needs. This is the tragedy. The quality that makes him beloved is the quality that makes him vulnerable. He's too good to survive in a world that punishes goodness. The consequences. A realm in chaos. Ned's mistake doesn't just cost him his life. It costs the entire realm. Because Ned fails to expose the truth before he's arrested, Joffrey becomes king. A cruel, sadistic boy with no legitimate claim sits on the Iron Throne. This triggers the War of the Five Kings. Robb declares independence for the North. Stannis claims the throne as Robert's true heir. Renly claims it through charm and strength. Balon Greyjoy seizes the opportunity to rebel. The realm descends into chaos. Tens of thousands die. Cities burn. Families are destroyed. The stability Robert built crumbles completely. All because Ned Stark gave Cersei Lannister a warning, instead of going straight to Robert Baratheon. If Ned had moved decisively, if he'd told Robert immediately, secured the Red Keep, arrested the Lannisters before they could react, the war might have been avoided. Robert would have executed Cersei and Jaime. Stannis would have become king. The succession would have been clear and uncontested. But Ned's mercy, his unwillingness to harm children, his desire to give Cersei a choice, created the conditions for years of war. This is the cost of his mistake. Not just his own death, but countless others who died because a bastard sat on the throne. The lesson. What this scene teaches is devastating, because it teaches the fundamental rule of Game of Thrones. Good intentions don't matter. Honor doesn't protect you. Being right doesn't mean you'll win. Ned is completely right about everything. Cersei's children are bastards. Joffrey has no claim. The Lannisters are committing treason. But being right doesn't save him, because he makes the tactical mistake of warning his enemy before striking. This is what Game of Thrones does better than any other story. It shows us the world isn't fair. Good people can make good choices and still lose. Honor can be a liability that gets you killed. Ned's mistake teaches every character who comes after. Robb learns you can't just be honorable, you have to be smart. Though he still makes his own fatal mistake with the phrase. Sansa learns that mercy to your enemies is cruelty to yourself. Jon learns that sometimes you have to break your principles to survive and protect what matters. And it teaches us, the audience, that this isn't a fairy tale. The honorable knight doesn't always win. Sometimes the honorable knight warns his enemy and gets beheaded for it. Why we love him anyway. Here's the beautiful thing about Ned Stark. We know his choice is wrong. We know warning Cersei is tactically idiotic. We know his honor is getting him killed. But we love him for it anyway. Because in a world full of schemers and liars and people willing to do anything for power, Ned Stark is genuinely good. He's not playing for wealth or glory or the throne. He's trying to do what's right, trying to protect innocence, trying to be the kind of person who doesn't sacrifice children for political advantage. And that's worth something, even if it gets him killed, because the alternative is becoming like Cersei, like Littlefinger, like Tywin. People who win the game but lose their humanity in the process. Ned refuses to become that. He'd rather die honorable than live as a schemer. And while that choice costs him everything, it makes him the moral center of the entire story. The standard by which every other character is measured. The honor that kills. Ned Stark's honor isn't just personal virtue. It's a sacred trust passed down through generations of Stark lords, the foundation upon which the North's loyalty is built. The reason men will follow a Stark banner into hell itself without question or hesitation. But honor without wisdom is just elaborate suicide. Principle without pragmatism is merely pretty posturing before the fall. I am offering you a choice. Every word of this offer comes from the heart of a man who genuinely believes that deep down, everyone shares his moral compass. That faced with the choice between doing right and doing wrong, most people will choose correctly. This faith in human nature is both Ned's greatest strength and his most fatal weakness. It makes him the kind of leader men will die for. It also makes him the kind of enemy others will kill without hesitation. Cersei looks at this northern lord and sees everything she has learned to despise about honor. Its naivety, its rigidity, its absolute failure to adapt to circumstances, its practitioners' smug certainty that their way is the only righteous way. Honor says, warn your enemy. Give them a chance to retreat with dignity and tact. Avoid bloodshed when possible, and show mercy when practical. Survival says, strike fast, strike hard, and make sure your enemy never gets a chance to strike back. Ned chooses honor. Cersei chooses survival. Only one of them will walk away from the game they're playing. The point of no return. This conversation represents the moment when peaceful resolution becomes impossible, when the careful balance of power in King's Landing tilts toward chaos. When the realm begins its slide toward the bloodiest war in its history. Take your children and leave. If Cersei had accepted this offer, thousands would still be alive. The War of the Five Kings would never have happened. The realm would have been spared years of devastation and decades of recovery, but accepting the offer would have meant admitting defeat, abandoning everything she had worked for, watching her children's future crumble because she lacked the courage to fight for what was theirs. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. This response seals both their fates. Ned's mercy becomes the catalyst for his own destruction. Cersei's refusal to yield becomes the spark that ignites a war consuming the entire continent. The Sept of Baelor bears witness to the death of compromise. The end of peaceful coexistence between honor and ambition. The moment when two incompatible philosophies of power clash and discover that only one can survive. The final truth. I am offering you a choice. Take your children and leave. These might be the most important words Ned Stark speaks in the entire series, not because they're wise, not because they're strategic, but because they reveal the fundamental incompatibility between Ned's worldview and the reality of King's Landing. Ned believes in honor, in mercy, in giving people choices, in protecting innocence, all beautiful principles, all worthy values, all completely useless in the Game of Thrones, because the game has one rule, and Cersei states it perfectly. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. Ned tried to find middle ground, tried to be merciful and still win, tried to protect innocence and expose truth and keep his honor all at once, and he discovered that middle ground doesn't exist. Warning Cersei was his fatal mistake because it gave her everything she needed. Time, information, opportunity. If he'd struck immediately, he would have won. If he'd told Robert without warning Cersei, the Lannisters would have fallen. But he couldn't do that, because honor demanded he give her a choice. Because mercy demanded he protect her children. Because his principles demanded he be better than his enemies. And those principles, beautiful as they are, got him killed. This is the tragedy of Eddard Stark. He was too good for the world he lived in, too honorable for a game without honor, too merciful for an environment where mercy is weakness. He stood in the Godswood and offered his enemy a choice, and his enemy chose to destroy him, Because that's what you do when someone shows you mercy in the Game of Thrones. You use it against them. Ned learned this lesson too late. By the time he understood there is no middle ground, he was already in chains. His honor was beautiful, his mercy was genuine, his principles were admirable, and it killed him. Because when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.